All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. Welcome to the webinar. Sorry I'm running late. My computer didn't like me this morning. But please let me know if you can hear me. And I will show my screen here in just a second. All right, sorry, I had to reboot, so I'm gonna have to load up all my stuff here as well. But welcome. Now we have a lot of people interested in the data, so let me get to it here. All right, so welcome. You should be able to see my screen at this point. We will be going over the dollar yen. I'm still bringing up my file. I just have one slide to show, and then we'll dive into the data. I want to make sure I get all the data situated here. All right. You are going to want to have, while I'm still loading this up, you're going to want to have the Excel, Open Office, or Google Docs to be able to use this file. And we will get to it all here. Again, I apologize for the delay. Okay, should be loading here. I can't believe it takes that long to get my stuff ready. But here is the one and only slide that you'll see. This is going to, again, welcome to all those of you who are live. Appreciate it. This audio and video is being recorded, so you will get access to this later if you so desire. But dollar yen, 10 years of data is collected from FXCM. You will need Excel, OpenOffice Docs. I'll have question and answer. You'll be able to use this data to trade binary options at the money, in the money, or out of the money. And you will be able to trade spreads and FX as well. So here is the data. I was actually hoping to see a down day for the dollar yen today because we have more opportunities on the downside for Thursdays than we do on the upside. But I'm just going to bring up a chart of the Nas at Nadex right now of the dollar yen. I'm going to change it to the 1 hour. And you can see from midnight Eastern time, it is up significantly. So, but going back to the data, you have probably seen the 1 to 2 o'clock on the dollar yen idea that I sent, I think it was November or December of last year, where it's done very well. And we're going to kind of walk you through the data of how I found it, how I trade it, why I trade it, and different things here. Everything you see here in green is something that you can manually change yourself. And I'll go through some of that. I'll go through the offsets, the months, years, and all that good stuff. So let's get to it. So the dollar yen, 1 to 2. We looked at the Mondays. That's what the video, if you haven't watched the video yet, you can do so. It's on YouTube. But we trade Mondays on the dollar yen 1 to 2 p.m. So this tab down here is 1 to 2. So that'll be 11 a.m. to 12 and so forth. We only go between 11 and 3 o'clock. But these are all the tabs. So 11 to 1, etc., etc. We may do additional data points in the future evenings and early mornings and so forth, but we haven't got around to that at this time. So this 1 to 2, this basically says if it's a down day from midnight Eastern until 1 p.m. on a Monday, historically, the last 10 years, it has 72.7% win rate. Now that's with an offset of 4. What I mean by an offset of 4 is we go back to Nadex, and this isn't a trade. So if you're looking for trades in this webinar, you are not going to find a live trade in this webinar. I'm just showing examples and showing the data here. What I mean by a 4 pip offset is we'll just call this 111.40. If I wanted to buy it, 111.34 is 6.6 pips or 6.7 pips now in the money. So that is for offset. That basically means how much in the money if I'm going long here. So you need to have 4 pips in the money, and that's what we've talked about in the video. Can everybody hear me? Somebody's saying that they can't hear me. Hello, hello. Hello, test, test. Can you hear me? There is a questions box in the thing. You can, okay. All right, sorry about that. All right. So 11 to 1 to 2 p.m. If it's down, historically, they have historically won 72% of the time. On a down day, also the short side is 74%. So what that means is, again, let's assume that this is 1 o'clock. 4 pips, at least 4 pips in the money would be 46. That would be basically 5 plus pips in the money. You could sell that as well. So we do both sides. We do a sell side and a buy side. So I think I mentioned the buy side was 34. The sell side was 46. So you would do both of those, and there's a few different options that can happen. None of them can fill. One of them can fill. Maybe this side fills and loses, or this side fills and loses, or they one side fills and wins, or both sides fill and one wins and one loses, or both sides fill and they both win. So those are the 5 different options that can happen. Over the last 16 months of live trading this particular idea, it's a 74% win rate, and that is based on a $57 fills. So obviously there's a lot of other non-fills, but that is the case. So we also do it if it's an up day. So if it's an up day on a Monday, same thing. We go long 4 pips in the money, 77%. And if it's up, I'll move this over. If it's up, we go short 77%. So some of these are not going to get filled. That's just the way the ball bounces at Nadex. And you're not ever going to get right at 4 pips in the money because of the way that Nadex is done. So the data is never going to be perfect exact, because trading is never perfect exact. But you can mine particular things out of this data and hopefully use it for your own trading. In this particular example, the 1 to 2 p.m., it has just taken its first loss since mid-October. This past Monday it lost, but it had 14 wins in a row, going back all the way to mid-October. And the loss that we had today happened in the last minute. The only minute that it was underwater was the last minute. So it dropped like 4 pips and we ended up losing. But so these are the things to look for. So you can mine different things, and obviously we have a lot of tabs, and you can change offsets and so forth. So another thing you can do is, and in this example, I'll just look at months. You can click on the green thing there. You will see a drop-down box, and you can change it to months. So this will only give you the second month of the year, which is February, still over the same 10 years, but it will show you the different statistics here. So, this can be helpful. There's only going to be a lot less data points, obviously, since there's only 4 weeks in February. So you'll probably get 4 Mondays, 4 Tuesdays, etc. But then half of them potentially are up and half of them potentially are down. So in general, you're only going to get about 2 per year on the downside and 2 per year on the upside. So you can see that there's it's only about 20 data points, but that goes over the course of 10 years. So as you see some of this, you can mine some of this, and I'm going to go into the years in a bit, because it's I find the next example very interesting as well. But the other thing you can play with is the offset. So again, we're still in the 1 to 2. If you change that offset to 0, so you're basically at the money or right at the money, you can see the percentages drop significantly, which is okay because you shouldn't be paying more than in that general range as well. And then you can mine some additional things, which we'll talk about later. But you can trade far in the money, so you could put an offset of 10 there, and you'll see the percentages here. Well, that's great, but 10 pips in the money, you're 83, 90%, something like that. The problem with that is it's going to be difficult to fill, and you're going to want to be able to pay less dollars versus the win percentage. So let's say we'll call this 89% in this example. You'll want to, let's assume that the historical win rate continues. You're going to want to average $87 or less in order to break even on this particular trade. Well, and that's assuming that you fill on every trade. So if you don't fill on a trade, obviously that's going to be a winning trade. So in this example here, I know this is different timing and so forth, but this is 9 pips in the money, and you're having to pay $90 for it. So, that's not something that you're going to want to do because it's only 89%. So you're not going to want to pay $90 for something that's 89%. So I like to find stuff that is the difference is about 10. So if I'm risking $57, for example, I want to see at least say 67% win rate. So because you'll end up so that's a difference of 10 between what I pay for it and what the historical win rate is. Obviously, I have no idea what the future win rate will be, but let's assume it wiggles around. So some years it's 63, some years it's 75, etc., and hopefully the average continues at that pace. You'll make some good money. Some people are like, well, I don't want to risk more than I make. So you can find something that, for example, wins 50% of the time or 53% of the time. And if you can pay $43 on average for that particular trade, you will make the exact same amount as somebody who risked 57 to get 67. Risk 57 with a 67% win rate as you would if you risked $43 and won 53% of the time. So, and same thing, if you risked $80 and won 90% of the time, it's going to be the exact same numbers over the course of 100 trades. Now, the one difference is you'll pay a little bit more commissions on the particular system that wins 90% of the time, just because you add that extra dollar on Nadex, versus if you only win 50% of the time, you're only paying that second commission, 50 times instead of 90 times. So it'll make a little bit of a difference. But again, everybody is different. Some people like far out of the money, so you could be doing stuff that's 35% win rate, and if you can buy it for $25, you'll make money as well. But the reason I do the 10 is it gives you a little wiggle room for bad times, and still, if it has an off year and you win 60% of the time, you're still making a little bit of money in the previous example that I talked about. The other thing you can look at is you can also do an offset in the negative. So you can say -5. And what this means is, again, in this example, 32% of the time, if it's down, if it's a down day on a Thursday, well, we'll take the upside, actually. Let's take the upside since it's an up day. Okay, 29% of the time, historically, on an up day, if you go long at 1 o'clock, the trade will win by at least 5 pips. So it will go up at least 5 pips. So if this was 1 o'clock right now, and the market's at, we'll call it 39 just to make it easy, 29% of the time, that particular thing will close at 44, 111.44 or higher. So how you could do that is, okay, this is an out of the money trade. This is 42, so not quite. This is 46, so let's pop it to, what is that, 7 pips. Let me change this to -7, just for example's sake. 24%. So it's still 24%. Going back here, this 46 was about, at the time I did it, was about 7 pips out of the money. I could buy it for 12, and it has a historical win rate of 24. So if I could do that, and this is not the exact time, obviously it's not even 12 yet, and we're talking about 1 to 2. So don't place this trade. It's just, these are just examples to show you the different things that you could mine out. So for a person who only wants to risk, $10, $15 on a particular option, they need to know first that they're going to lose, 76% of the time. And can you handle that? So that's obviously going to be long losing streaks on that. But you're going to have some trades as well. So you could also trade this, and I'm getting to your question, John. You could trade this in the futures and the spreads as well. So as you dig through this, you can say, okay, well, 24% of the time, the trade runs at least 7 pips in my direction if I'm going long in this particular trade. So, how often does it do, 20 pips? 5% of the time it does 20 pips. And I'm not showing you the best numbers. If you go in some of the other tabs, you'll see different numbers. But let's take it at 15. So 7.5% of the time it runs at least 15 pips. So, if you had a stop of 10 and, looking for at least 15, you could make some money potentially there. But again, over the course of 10 years, that's 20 wins over 15. So you're getting about 2 wins a year for a long on a Thursday. So there's going to be, say, 25 longs in a year, and you're going to win, 2 of them. So you have to figure that out. Everybody is going to be a little different. Yes, all these tabs are based on Eastern time. So so you can go through this. So you could go, okay, 0 and then 5 and then 10, and what's the difference between 5 and 10? That means that's how many times that finished between 5 and 10 and so forth. So and I have videos later that you can peruse and go through as I talk through some of this. So yes, you could absolutely trade it in futures. Sorry, Paul, that you didn't have any sound. Okay, Jeremy has a question on the 1 to 2. Okay, let me bring this back up to, bring this back up to the 4 a second. So Jeremy had a question of, okay, all these things look good. 4 pip offset, why do you only trade on Mondays? Well, if you look at Monday, downside long, we're at 70, we'll call it 73 and 74%. And then if you have upside long, you're at 77 and 77%. So by far, that is the best on the upside action. Wednesday is 75, but if you look at the long trade, again, because you're wanting to do, in this example, you're wanting to do both sides, it's 69%. Keep in mind, you're not going to get filled on all these trades as well. And then over here on the long trade, 71 and 73, yeah, that's okay. But if you, again, compare it to Tuesday here, 72, 68. So Mondays we found to be the best in our trading action and in live. So some of these things will not pan out in your live trades just because you need to know how often you get filled. You won't know that necessarily. Are you risking too little for each trade? So if you're part of the Euro Pound webinar that we have, Euro Pound trade is very good, but with the Euro Pound, it's in Nadex trades it in 10 pip increments. Well, the way that we trade the Euro Pound, you have to be at least 2 pips in the money. So in this particular example, if I was going long, I would be buying the 69. Well, that's $76 already. So it's difficult to fill at $57, more difficult. So you may want to bid up when you are farther in the money. So instead of just paying $57, you might want to pay 70 or 65 or whatever your particular thing that you find out. So that was a little about 1 to 2. The other thing I wanted to mention, which I find very interesting, is the 12 to 1. So this is one that I've shared with people last year. 12 to 1, 4 pips in the money on a Monday, go long no matter what. So you can see on a down day up here, 77% again over the data. And the long side, if it's up for the day, it's 78%. So you don't want to go short. It's only in the 60s, and then it's only low 70s there. So very nice. And this actually was in the a little higher than that. But what I wanted to show you is the years, because this is one that I find fascinating. If you can click on the year over here, so this is all the data. But if you go, well, we'll go from last year because last year was horrible. Last year, down when it was down day, the long side won only 44% of the time. Again, the historical average was what, 77? Was it? Yeah, 77. So way, way, way off. Historically, it was a brutal year for the 12 to 1. And then the upside was okay, but it was still below average, 72%. Okay, well, is the system over? Is it done or whatever? But I want to show you some data here. So 2011, again, both of them are about 70%, 77% for each. So in 2011, it was a big up year, big down year. You had 33 down Mondays and only 18 up Mondays. And you can see that the down longs did very well. The up longs were well below its average. And what I found recently is if you look at then 2012, 100% on the upside long. So up day long trades won 100% of the time in 2012. Remember, 2011 was a below average year. 2013, about average. 2014 was really good on the upside, 96%. 2015 was just a little bit below average. 2016, I'm looking at the up longs over here. 2016 was also below average, a little bit more below average. So 2015 was 73. 2016 was only 71. 2017, it went 18-0. So you had 2 different years where it was 18 or 17-0, and then 18-0 where it had no losses on the upside. After a poor year, 2018 was a poor year. It was below average, at least on the up longs. This year so far, we've had 3 filled trades. They've actually all been on up days. And we are 3-0, 3 wins, 0 losses. So is this another one of those years where it goes undefeated on the long side? I don't know. That was a pattern that's happened over the last 10 years. Doesn't mean it will continue, no. But it's something interesting. Again, lots of different things that you can mine out of the data. So we took all the data. Obviously, if you just downloaded this data, it's fine, but you have to organize it in date, day, month, years, midnight price and percentage change, and I didn't talk about that yet, but you could look at this as well. So instead of 0.0% down, you could look at it as, okay, I'm only going to trade it if it's down really big. Does that change the win rates at all? And you can move, or does it make it worse? So do you want to trade more often or whatever? So you can move the change option here. You can move the offset option. You can move the month and the year. The risk aspect is interesting. The problem with it, though, is it's difficult to equate the risk with the profit here, because you can put, $2 risk and this is going to pop huge. But that doesn't mean you're going to get filled on something that's trading for $2. And if you put $80 there, that changes it because it's above the win rate. So the risk, I use the risk more just to see, okay, you can see a pop here. This is 77%. You got $5,100 there, and versus this is also 77%. But you can see it's much more profitable. It's $800 more profitable, and the reason is because it had a lot more trades. So you can, so it's helpful in just eyeballing that a little bit, but I would not use that as a indicator of the profits per se and changing that. So we put that in there just as an additional guide. Can I give you, so please ask any questions. I don't have a whole lot else to talk about here. I wish we had a trade. If it was a down day, we'd have a better option to have a trade here. Let's see if we have anything. It's an up day. You're 68%, which is on the lower end. That's 4 pips in the money and 68%. So nothing I would look at. You can look at 8. That's 81 and 83, but that's still below all the other dates. So, and then look at 10 to 2 a second. See if there's anything there. And it's a long, so I don't see anything that's worthwhile to trade in this particular webinar. So ask any questions you have, and I will get to how to get the file here in just a minute. John asked, could you give an example of how to trade a future and the positive negatives of futures versus what you're doing? Well, futures has, you can trade them on the CME futures, Forex. You can trade it via a Forex broker. I don't know that I would trade, you can trade it in the futures market, but I think it's easier probably in the Forex, having a Forex broker or using Nadex spreads if you're looking to do it that way. So you can, so for example, if you find something that is, really good, you could buy a spread trade here. You could do something like this. So let's say that you find something that runs, 20, 30 pips. In this particular example, I have to pay $4 for this trade. Current market's at 111.40, so it means it has to come up to 111.44. It's moved up now, but 111.45. In order for me to break even without commissions, it's going to have to go up at least $5 or 5 pips. However, if it goes up to 111.60, I'll be able to cash it out at 111.60, assuming I don't exit it early. 111.60, which means I made $15 on this particular trade, and it only cost me $5. So I made 300% on my particular account. Obviously, you can have 10 contracts and cost you $50, and you made $150 on it. So you could trade it that way. You could trade the call spreads kind of closer to the money. So this particular trade, the middle one here, you're not having to pay as much out of the money for it. The market's at 40, and you're having to pay 41 for it. Max loss here, 51 and 49. You may want to watch that just in case you don't have a big losing day, or the market just goes against you. But you can do that in the future. Forex market have stops and all that kind of stuff as well. So it just depends on how you like to trade. Everybody is a little bit different in that of how they like to trade. Some people like binary options, in the money, at the money, or far out of the money, and some people are spread traders and Forex. The point is you can use this data for however you so desire to trade. I give thoughts in some of the videos, but I don't give recommendations of what exactly you should do. So, all right. So if you are interested in the data, you can go here, MrBinaryOptions.com/capital UJ10. UJ10, I'll post it here in the chat as well. And that will bring you to this site. It actually forwards you to this site, but you'll get 10 years of the dollar yen data in July 2019. As you noticed here, this is updated through the end of 2018. Every 6 months, we tend to update it. That way we don't do it on a monthly basis, etc., just because it's not going to change the results all that much. But we do it on a 6 months data. So if you decide that you want this file, you'll get we'll update it in July sometime, and you'll get the January through June data added to the thing. I will be doing another webinar tomorrow morning at 11:30. For those of you who have the file, we'll dig a little deeper. You can get more specific questions because you'll have the file on hand, etc. If you want this, we do have other pairs that we've done the data before on. So, end of the week Dow system, Euro US dollar part 1, part 2, S&P system. All of these systems were developed based on historical data. So they were all mined from past data. So not everything you get here or mine here is necessarily going to be the next end of the week Dow system, but you may find some systems in the rough. And again, that's exactly how I've done all my systems in the past, is just mining the particular data. So it's $100 if you want it, and you'll get notice of any of the currency pairs first that we do. So we have all the data for the other, I think there's 10 total currency pairs on Nadex. We have all the data, 3, 6, 10. But you have to clean it up a little bit and all that kind of good stuff before it's workable for public consumption. So if you're interested in it, you can go to that site. If you click the Add to Cart button, it's $100. You'll be directed after purchase to the members page, or the thank you page, I should say, and then you can download the file. Again, you're going to want to have Excel. You'll see it in Excel for me. You can use Open Office, which is a free software. If you're not familiar with that, that's a free software that I think I have it on this computer as well. Or Google Docs. The thing with Google Docs, it's a little more clunky. Everybody can get Google Docs. You just need a Gmail account. But here, I think the month and the year, instead of a drop-down box, I think you actually have to enter 1 or 2 or whatever in that particular green box. The only things that you can change are the green boxes, so don't try and change any of these other ones because they're all formulas here. You'll see the formula here. So you'll switch all the formulas and it'll screw it all up for you. So, but that is that. If you have any questions on the data, be glad to answer your questions here. Again, in the future, if there's enough interest in these kind of things, we'll release more of them. The reason I chose the dollar yen is because I know some of you have been trading the 1 to 2, so I kind of wanted to show you, how we got to that and why and all that stuff. So you could trade this using the new touch binaries at Nadex. Yep, that's absolutely true too. The thing with touch brackets is they are for the end of the week. So if you click on the touch brackets here, it's a lot like spreads. However, it's for the rest of the week. So it closes at 3 o'clock on a Friday. But if you are close, so for example, let's see if I can find one here, 111.77. So let's say we have a short trade and you don't necessarily want to babysit it. You could take it here. You're risking $38 for a max profit of 212. Again, you can still exit it at 2 p.m., but you would have to manually exit it if you wanted to continue to do that. So our longest data that we currently have is 2 hours. So we have 11 to 1, 12 to 2, 1 to 3. We don't have any data longer than that we've mined out. So. All right. Any other questions on any of the things? Anybody need me to go over anything? Again, MrBinaryOptions.com/UJ10, and you'll be directed to this. Click the add to cart. Usually so on Monday, it'll expire at midnight. I don't want a ton of people with the data. So I am limiting it a bit in that respect. But the other thing is, like I said, we'll have a webinar tomorrow, 11:30. So if you do decide to purchase and have the data, fantastic. We can go and dig deeper. And as people dig it out, I can give you my thoughts on, are you looking at it incorrectly, or that's a good idea, or that's just not enough data, or whatever. Because you can end up mining it so crazily that it just doesn't make any sense. So let's just say this particular thing, 77.77, we're using all. I do think there is some benefit to the month. So, for example, if we look at June over the course of the last 10 years, 90%, 72%. Is there particular times of the year that this performs better or not? So here's August. This one's 85%, which is above average. This one's 93%, which is above average. But what you probably want to avoid is being like, okay, we'll keep it at August, and then let me look at 2017. Okay, 2017 was 50%, and this was 100%. So on odd years, I'm going to avoid doing the long down long trade. Because if I click on 2017, 2015, 2011, etc., it's bad, and I didn't look that up beforehand, so I don't know. But you don't want to mine it so far down that there's just not enough data points to make it interesting. If you guys are fans of the end of the week Dow system, which hopefully you are, that's based on 10 plus years of data, but on average it only trades 6 times a year. So, we're not even at 100 points of data, but it's worked extremely well. So I don't necessarily think you need to have thousands of points of data, but you don't want to have 10 either. I think that's difficult to do. Dan purchased, but you did not get an email or to the members page. Yes, you can get a copy of this webinar. It should be sent to you automatically. It'll probably take about 3 hours to do so once the recording is complete. Dan, I will look at that when I get off the webinar, and I will make sure you get sent to the correct spot. Okay, anybody else? Last call for questions. Again, please go to MrBinaryOptions.com/UJ10 and you can pick up this file. You can also leave comments of what particular instrument that you would want to see next. Again, if we have enough interest in it. There is a fair amount of work that is done behind the scenes to get this ready for consumption. So there's some cost to it. As well as time to it. So it's not just snap your fingers and you have all this data. There's lots of formulas, lots of time, lots of frustrations and whatnot. So, but there is some, really good stuff, especially, if you're looking at like the pound yen or the euro yen, those things move significant amounts. So, you're going to have some out of the money stuff there that you can do and so forth. And as we go, we'll pursue that if people are interested. And if not, that's fine. We'll keep it to ourselves and just kind of work it out on the back end there. So, but hopefully this was a helpful webinar. Again, MrBinaryOptions.com/UJ10. Make sure the UJ is capitalized. You will be redirected to this page and hit the Add Cart button, and you'll be ready to go. And if you do, again, between now and 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, Friday, I will have another webinar starting at 11:30 tomorrow for those of you who purchase the file, and we can dig deeper into specific ones that you want to look at and go from there. So thanks for coming. Hopefully this was helpful, and take care. I wish you the best.